Hey everybody, Hans Finzel here.
Patrick Kelly.
I'm coming to you from Highlands Ranch, Colorado.
And I'm coming to you from Tampa, Florida.
Welcome to episode 4 of the Millennial Boom Training. We hope you're excited about this as much as we are. And today we're talking about millennials rewriting the workplace. We touched on it a little bit the other day on how workplaces are changing, but today our focus is on millennials rewriting the workplace. And Patrick, are you at work today?
Yes, I am. I actually am at work today. What about you, Hans? Are you at work?
I am at work today here in my basement.
It's interesting because we're going to talk about the definition of work time a little bit later, but it's interesting because over my career, I've always been getting asked that question. Are you at work today? Are you on or off the golf course? Now, if you know me, I love golf. I've always golfed, and a lot of my business has been done on the golf course, right? Sometimes I would take a phone call, go underneath a tree, right? Talk on the phone, but a lot of that was done it was at work. And I actually have a quote that work is not somewhere you go, it's something you do, right? So
absolutely,
it's a little bit different, but I remember, Hans, back in 2009, and we talk a little bit about this in the book, is that I was constantly out of the office. And I had a boss that I told you, he had baby boomer jeans, tighter than skinny jeans. I mean, so tight. I mean, he was, where are you? What are you doing? And I understand mileage. I understand taxes. I understand all these things, right? But he was so focused. I mean, I would say laser focused about being in the office all the time. He was only focused. Where are you? What are you doing? And then when I would tell him what I was doing, he would give me a reason or an excuse of why I shouldn't be there, how I could make my clients more money if I was at the office, if he could help me with what I'm doing. So over time, as I learned, right, you didn't always have to be at the office to work. And that led and opened up to an entirely new culture of how I work today, is why we say millennials rewrite the workplace, because I felt that I've been able to service a long career of working not at a traditional office.
I had an office for most of my career, but 8 years ago, I went out on my own. And so for the last 8 years, I've been working at home. And it was an adjustment for this old baby boomer, because I had in my mind, I get in my car and I drive to my office, and then I start work. And then I have a lunch break, and then at quitting time, I go home, and then it's personal time and family time, or I might take work home. Isn't it interesting how this whole coronavirus has just forced this issue upon millions and millions of people that don't like to work from home, but they have to work from home. And all of a sudden you're struggling with boundaries, discipline, getting up, getting dressed. I mean, we don't have to get dressed now to work. But boomers, we're talking a little bit in this chapter about why it was harder for baby boomers to make this switch. And that's because I believe technology came of age, during our careers. I mean, Bill Gates and Steve Jobs were both baby boomers that changed the world technologically and gave us the ability to work from anywhere. Now we can work from Starbucks, we can work from home, we can work on an airplane. You and I met on an airplane halfway across the Pacific Ocean. And I told you we were on our way to China, and you asked me what I did. I told you I was an author. You bought the Wi-Fi on the flight. You went to Amazon. You saw my books, and the rest is history.
Yep.
That wouldn't have happened 40 years ago. It was so cool. But for us boomers, it's been a real adjustment to come up with the idea that you can really be disciplined and productive and be held accountable when you're at home working, right?
True.
It was really hard for us because we were big on accountability, structure. We talked a couple episodes ago about how baby boomers built our buildings very differently from the way you millennials build your buildings. I'm sure Microsoft in the early days was very different than the Facebook offices. You and I went out to Northern Cal and we went over to the Facebook office. That was pretty cool, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was. That was a great day. Well, it's funny because I was showing you the two buildings. Remember the first building that they had purchased?
Right.
They were in, and that was the original Facebook. And then I showed you what they were building. And I remember you were like, wait a minute, this is the new office? Remember, it was all glass.
Yep.
I mean, it was crazy. I mean, if you have a chance and you're in the Bay Area of San Francisco, and you can drive down and see these corporate offices of Facebook and all this, it's amazing to see what type of buildings millennials are building. It's an insane building, colors everywhere, big Facebook-like thumbs, right? It's just
weird. Yeah. We got a great picture by the thumb. Hey, shout out to Tom Schick and Lorraine Evans who are watching. Thanks for being on Facebook Live.
Yeah, we love you guys. Justin Ball, Jeremy Diggs, what's going on, guys? So
Truett Harper. Hey, Truett, how you doing, man? Hey, while we have the second, let me just show them how they can get the free book. We're talking, this is the fourth in our episode. How many we're going to have every day till April 15th, every weekday. We're doing a training. This is episode 4. I think we're going to have a total of 10 or 11, right?
Correct, with a surprise on the last day. So it might just not be Hans and I on that last day. You got to stay tuned to find out.
I remember your grandmother in the early days of our friendship. She would call you and say, Patrick, are you at work? Because I don't want to bother you if you are at work.
Nana did that a lot. And I think you remember I had a very close relationship with her. I would go visit her all the time. I would drive 3.5 hours south to Huntington Beach to go see her, just to go help her out or just go see her for the weekend. My brothers did the same thing. But yeah, she would always say, when we would show up, she would say, if it would be Tuesday at 9:30, Friday at 4:30, the first question she would ask is, are you working, right? And we talk about this in the book. We talk about generational lessons from my Nana, because even then she's the builder generation, but she felt a sense of asking and making sure that I was doing what was responsible before going and helping her out first, though, right? So my priority was family. Her priority, right, because she grew up in a different time, she thought we should be at work. So yeah, it's a very different culture.
There's another big change that happened in our culture through the years, because we went from the pre-industrial revolution, agricultural economy where everybody had to be at the fields or at the work, and then the industrial revolution brought factories and a whole bunch of work where you had to go to work. And we've been talking now in the middle of this coronavirus, which jobs do you still have to go to work to do? But fortunately, we've had this explosion of the gig economy and people telecommuting and being able to work from home. I'm so glad that Zoom was invented before 2020, right?
Some people don't realize that.
And Netflix and Amazon Prime. But now those boundaries are gone, and we're all, those of us who were not working until March of 2020 at home, and now they are working at home, we're adjusting to the fact you can be productive at home. Hey, tell us about Ducks in Society. What's that all about?
Yeah, so we talk about that in the book and on the podcast. I did do a small podcast episode about Ducks in Society. So I had a manager when I was 16 at Walgreens, and he would like stalk me while I was stocking the shelves. That's how I say it, right? Because I was stocking the shelves and he was stalking me stock the shelves. And so he would always come up to me and be like, Patrick, yes. He'd be like, you're not doing this. I need to do this. And if you do it this way, you'll be more efficient and get it done faster. And I was 16 at the time. So I was always like, okay, man, I'm here for 4 hours. Like 4 hours, like I'm not allowed to work more than this. Like you're giving me a lot to think about for 4 hours. And then another day comes up to me and I got everything done. He starts talking, hey, we're gonna help you help me with this, and we're gonna build an end cap. And I said, I don't think I'm gonna be able to get that done. And he goes, are you a duck? And I said, what? And he goes, are you a duck? Because if you are a duck, then no problem. Do your normal job duties. I'll create you your task list. I won't ask you any for outside help. I won't lead you in where I believe that you can be. You can just be another duck in society, collect your paycheck, and do what you're told. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, it hit me. It was like, I just stared at this guy and I was like, no. I was like, I don't want to be another duck. I said, I don't want to be like that at all. And he goes, okay. So again, you're here for 4 hours. How do we utilize this time, this space to get creative, to work on new projects, to show, one, you're helping me, but you're showing the rest of your team, the management, that you are just not a cashier, that you're able to do this, and this. So I decided at the age of 16 to not be another duck in society, which has led me on the path I am today. Because even working at Walgreens, that led me to then be the, an overnight cashier, which is, involves stocking, about redoing end caps. They created kind of a better position for me there, right? I then went to a store in DeLand because I was doing good things, right? So I wasn't being a duck, and that's how my manager was too. He got promoted. He got his own store. So when I say don't be another duck in society, don't just go to work and do your normal job duties. Think about how you can make an impact, right? And know that there's people out there that are willing to show and let you exploit that impact. You just got to do it in the right way. He did it differently to me, right? Came up and asked if I wanted to be a duck. So there's a lot of opportunities that are out there. And the same thing with the COVID-19 crisis. We are all sitting in our houses. Majority, news is saying 90% of people are listening to the order, meaning that 90% of Americans are sitting in their houses. They're either, like Hans said, Netflix, it's always been around, but now it's okay to binge watch Netflix, binge watch episodes and do these things. But don't create habits that other people are doing. Don't get stuck in the same ruts and be a duck like everybody else. Be creative during this time. Find things that will exploit your passion that you can help people with. Anybody can binge watch Netflix. Anybody can just do their normal day-to-day activities. But if you don't have the vision to see past that, quack, quack, quack.
One thing I did learn from you, and I'm watching my kids who are now having to work from home, especially my two oldest sons, Mark, our two oldest sons. I see my wife's watching. She always says they're not your children, they're our children.
They're only your children when they're bad. They're only, I hear yelling and they're going, Patrick, take care of your children. I'm like, oh, I got it.
Hey, shout out to Cameron Briggs. Hey, Cam, how you doing, man? Cam's now, he's a painter, a house painter. Now he actually has to go to work in order to do his work. He cannot telecommute and get houses painted. So some people are, they do have to go to work, but he still works for himself. And so there's still accountability. I wanted to read a little bit about accountability because that's for baby boomers. That's where we get really hung up. Can I hold people accountable if I'm not at the same office with them? If they're home working. So accountability is how we hold people responsible for their decisions when we're not with them on a day-to-day basis. Accountability. So is it possible to hold somebody accountable 1,000 miles away? I was the head of an international organization that worked in 65 countries, and I had people that I had to hold accountable that were 5,000 miles away. And guess what? We had to learn accountability is not about being in the same building. It's not about being in the same office. It's about results, right?
Correct.
Are you fulfilling the results that we are requiring of you? And are you being successful in your work? Good accountability is not, I'm reading from page 63 of our Millennial Boom book. Good accountability is not keeping tabs on people because you don't trust them. It's holding them responsible to do their work well. And so now what we're having to do is to figure out, how do I do that and I'm not in the same building with them?
Correct. And the same with me. I've managed people all over the country, and I have calls with Singapore right now almost once a week. And regardless if we're at home, right? But I've been having these calls for years. And at 9 p.m. my time, I'm at home. I've always been at home taking these calls. And this gentleman has always been at work. He's always called me from the office. And it's interesting because I've never met his kids or heard his kids. And he's always like, every time we get on the phone, oh, is that Ty? Oh, tell him, because the culture that we created is he knows that I'm answering a phone after family time and after we're having dinners, and he understands that. So connecting with clients globally is no different than connecting with someone that's 15, 20 miles down the road from you. And I am starting to see this more and more in the education world. My wife's a third grade teacher and my son is in second grade. And if you look at what they're doing, they're on the computer for an hour and a half to 2 hours, and then they have homework. They have we have new notebooks that we're creating for them. Accountability, right? They're not in a seat for 8 hours now throughout the entire day with their teacher saying, sit down, do this, do this. Now, as parents, the accountability steps in that we now have to actually manage what our children are doing, and the children have to understand that accountability, just because they are not at school, their schoolwork is still done every day at the end of the day and on Fridays. So guess what? Now, even today, we're teaching our children that are now communicating with school about accountability and productivity when their school is only 5 miles down the road.
That's exactly right. I was watching my oldest son, Mark. He posted on, his wife posted on Instagram yesterday that he was working on their lesson plan for the week for the kids that are home, which is they're not homeschoolers, but like millions of parents, they are now becoming homeschoolers, whether they like it or not. So the way I suggest you do it is at the beginning of every week, if you have people you're holding accountable, you ask them, so what are you planning to get accomplished this week? Right? Let me see the list of what you're planning to get accomplished this week. And then after you see the list, oh, by the way, will you also don't forget we need to get this done this week or this done this week. So it's not about punching a clock. It's not. And how many people do punch clocks and sit there in their desks or behind their desk at the work, but they're not productive, right?
A lot of them.
A whole lot of people just punch the clock.
We know you. We know you people. We see all of you.
By the way, shout out to my brother, Peter Finzel, Dr. Peter Finzel, who's also watching today. Hey, brother, he's one smart dude down there in Alabama. Oh, so what else? Let's see. 4-hour work week. We mentioned this, and you're a big fan of the book, The 4-Hour Work Week.
Huge, 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 huge. I swear Timothy Ferriss is going to call me one day because I do so much free promotions for him. But Timothy Ferriss, if you haven't, get the book, The 4-Hour Work Week. And again, if you think that, a 4-hour work week, escape the 9 to 5, that's not what I want to do. Wait a minute. Hold on. We're talking about productivity here. This book, to me, helped me with productivity and understanding the mindset of an entrepreneur and living the 4-hour work week of escaping the 9 to 5. We have to get creative in how we do things. So as you were waking up, and as I told a friend of mine, I've been going to bed at like midnight, 1 o'clock during this crisis, waking up about 7, 8 a.m. My time schedule is different from going to bed at 10, waking up at 4 like I used to do, Hans, right? That kind of was my, I would say my schedule during all this. So we have to shift, right? We have to constantly shift the way we're thinking. And this 4-hour work week helped do that. So as you're at home, don't think of your home as the 9 to 5. You have to now think, when can you have work hours completed for certain tasks? When can we schedule Facebook Lives and Zoom meetings? So you have to look at it that the productivity of a 4-hour work week can be accomplished from someone sitting in 9 to 5, as Hans just said, that one person or two people that are sitting there at their desk, not actually being productive at all. So again, it's just a way of thinking differently. Think about how to think about things differently. And that's what that book did for me.
I like you're also a huge fan of Richard Florida. And we didn't know as we were writing, The Rise of the Creative Class. What's that book about, Patrick?
Yeah, so The Rise of the Creative Class, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, you like obsessed about that book.
Oh, look, I have this thing lined out So this is how I feel as me. So millions of Americans are beginning to work and live the way creative people like artists and scientists always have. And as a result, our values and tastes, our personal relationships, our choices of where to live, and even our sense and use of time are changing. Leading the shift are nearly the 38 million Americans in many diverse fields who create for a living, the creative class. The first person to name this revolution of the urban studies was Richard Florida, it was the rise of the creative class that, again, now we got podcasters, YouTubers, digital marketing. There's so many different people that have sprung up from this, and a lot of different industries are like this. So you have to let your people discover their creativeness to be able to create new opportunity and to help grow your business in ways you had never thought possible. This is a great book for any good leader.
Yeah, I think, Patrick, that's probably a good spot to finish because we're trying to keep these to under a half hour.
Exactly. So, Hans, what do you think? Let's give them 1 rules of engagement and how to thrive in life and work, and then you'll have to stay tuned for tomorrow.
Okay, well, I would say it's not the one of the rules of engagement we wrote in the end of our chapter, but I'd say for you baby boomers, relax. Relax and shift from a mentality of we got to go to work to how am I going to hold my team accountable in a positive way for good results. You know, that's the key. It's not punching the clock. It's not going to an office. It's about accountability and results. Tomorrow, Patrick, we're going to talk about the great gulf in technology, and I love technology, so I'm excited about our talk tomorrow.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. All right, everyone, we'll see you tomorrow on episode 5.
Bye-bye.